Good afternoon, everybody. It's Andrea here at VW Family Farm, and today we are going to talk about this beautiful flower, Echinacea. So I want to talk to you guys about Echinacea because it is one of the most popular herbs of our time. It is great for immune boosting properties, and honestly, if I had to pick one herb to have in my medicine cabinet, and only one, I would probably have to go with Echinacea. And I'm gonna tell you why, and I'm gonna tell you what I do with it and how to take it. So this is Echinacea, and I call it purpurea. I don't know what the actual correct pronunciation, but that is the type that I'm growing. I'm growing this, I started this from seed from Baker Creek, and it's a couple years old. I've harvested off of it, and it's still doing great. Echinacea is in the daisy family. It's a beautiful flower, even if you just want to grow it for beauty alone. And we have pollinators all over these. These are great for the pollinators, the butterflies and the bees and all of that. It's also typically called a cone flower. So you hear it called by several different names. So this is just growing out in my front herb bed, and it's doing amazing. It loves growing here in this full sun. It likes lots of sun. It likes the heat. Now, if you're in a super hot environment, you might want to give it a little bit of shade, but it definitely likes the sun. It's really truly been a no fuss plant to grow for me. I'm not a flower girl. I don't have the touch with flowers, but I love flowers. And so this has given a bit of color to my herb bed, as well as a lot of enjoyment. I can see it looking out my kitchen window, and it's just beautiful. It'll get covered in butterflies, and I just really enjoy it, even if it was not helpful medicinally. But the fact is, it is great to have in your medicine cabinet. It does everything from fight off the flu and the common cold, and this is one of those great herbs that just helps your body make new cells, healthy cells. It does those things as well as helps keep your blood pressure under control. If you're having a bit of high blood pressure, you can take a short stint of this to get it back under control. It helps prevent breast cancer even. It's been shown to do that, as well as help with anxiety, and most of all, inflammation. Inflammation is one of the most problematic things in our bodies today due to the amount of sugar that we take in. And I don't mean like you're a sweet eater or you're not, but there is hidden sugar in everything. And so that causes inflammation, and Echinacea can help you out with that. So this is one of those amazing plants that you can use almost every part of it. When I harvest it, I harvest everything from the flowers to the leaves to the roots and even the seeds. Okay, so before I tell you my favorite recipe and my favorite way to use Echinacea, let's talk about a tincture. You may be thinking, what in the world even is a tincture? Well, a tincture is just simply a liquid extract that's very concentrated from the parts of a plant. They're very simple to make. So what you do with the tincture is you simply harvest the parts of whatever plant it is that you are using, and you put those in a glass jar, and then you cover them by an inch or two with, you have about 3 choices of things you can use. So you can use 80 to 100 proof alcohol to tincture with. That's gonna draw the properties out of the plant the best. But you can also use glycerin, which I've used, and you can also use vinegar. So those do a great job as well, just depending on what you keep in your house and what you want to use and what you want your final product to contain. So you're just gonna literally cover your herbs, like I said, until they have about an inch or 2 on top of them of the liquid. You're gonna put a tight fitting lid on it. Then you're simply gonna place that in a warm, sunny spot and let that become a medicine. You need to try to shake that daily. That's not a deal breaker. If you miss a day, it's okay. But shaking it gets everything that settles on the bottom shook up in there. I just think it helps it tincture better. And then you're just gonna wait. You're gonna wait 4 to 6 weeks. Then you're gonna strain out those spent herbs, throw them in your compost, and you are good to go. You're gonna put them in a jar. I'm gonna show you one at the end of this video of what I like to use. I like to use a dark amber colored bottle to keep the tincture inside the best quality possible. If you tincture in alcohol, it's gonna last for many, many years. If you tincture in glycerin, you're looking at a shelf life of about 2 to 3 years. And vinegar, you can safely say a year, although all of those will probably last longer than what I said. That's just a good rule of thumb. All right, so this is not complicated, and this is by far my favorite way to do it. You can use dried echinacea. That will work just fine if you don't have any growing. Use that time while you're using the dried echinacea to get you some growing somewhere, because it's super easy and I promise you, you can do it. So the first step you're gonna do is in the springtime, when you've got fresh leaves all over your plant, you are going to start harvesting some of those leaves. Don't strip your plant completely bare, but you can harvest a good amount. Put them loosely in a mason jar and cover with your tincture liquid that we talked about earlier in the video. Cover that tightly, set it aside, and just shake it every day or every few days. That's all there is to do at that point. Okay, next, a little later in the season, when you see these young buds starting, these have not made a full flower yet. They're still a young, tight bud. Harvest you some of these. Add these into your jar. And continue to shake that jar. All right, a little bit later in the season, when you have flowers and they're still in their prime, don't wait till they're past their prime. When they're in their prime, harvest some of these. Again, don't strip your plant, but harvest some of these to add to your jar. If at this point your tincture is getting out of control for the size jar you pick, just up the size of your jar and go ahead and top off that tincture liquid to make sure it stays a couple inches above the material. All right, and finally in the fall, I'm not gonna do this today, but as this plant starts to die back, come out on a fall afternoon and dig you up one of your plants and harvest the roots off of it. So in the fall, all that energy is going back to the roots of the plant. That's just what happens in nature. And so that's a perfect time to harvest those and get the best bang for your buck out of those roots. Harvest those, make sure that plant you're harvesting is 2 or 3 years old to get the best roots. Clean those up really well, scrub them off, peel them if you need to, chop them up and add those to your jar. Top off that tincture liquid. Make sure you're still 2 or 3 inches above your plant material. Keep shaking daily. At the point when you add those roots in, keep shaking daily for another 3 to 4 weeks, and then you have made an echinacea tincture. And go ahead and strain out all the plant material at that point and get ready to bottle it up. 1 quart should easily last you an entire winter. All right, so after I strain my tincture, I like to store them in these amber colored bottles. You can get these online. In fact, I'll link you some below in case you're wondering exactly what I'm talking about. But these dark colored bottles will keep the UV light out and will keep your tinctures and all kinds of your herbal creations as fresh and nutritious as possible. So finally, how do we take this stuff and when do we take this stuff? So if you feel something like an acute situation coming on, like you feel like you're coming out with a cold or the flu or an infection, that is when you need to start taking it. Echinacea is so much more potent and it's gonna do you a lot of good if you knock it out from the beginning. So I would say every hour, take half a teaspoon of this. You can dilute this in a little water, tea, juice, something like that, and just drink it down. You can just take it in a dropper full, however you choose to do it. I would suggest, if you've never taken it before, start with putting it in some water. That way you're diluting it, it's not as strong tasting. If that doesn't seem to be working, half a teaspoon every hour. Go to a teaspoon every hour, but only do that until you start feeling your symptoms subside and you start to feel better. But if we're talking about more of a chronic condition that's just a lingering condition you have, start with 1/4 to maybe a half a teaspoon, a couple, maybe 3 times a day. Try that for a couple weeks and see if that situation's getting better. If it seems to be working, only do that for a couple weeks and then back off for a week or 2 and stop. And then try that again. Not because you have to stop because you're gonna harm yourself, but the way echinacea works, it is like firing up your immune system. And so it's really just not necessary, and it could be counterproductive if you do that all the time. You wanna do it in bursts and then slack off, and then you can do that again so that it keeps working to its maximum effectiveness. And if you're like me and you have a teenage daughter who's really artsy and you have extra flowers, you can use them in flower arrangements. I thought this was super cute, and this is just herbs and things she picked out of my herb bed. So there's you another idea. Hope this helped you. I hope you will give an echinacea tincture a try. You can also make echinacea teas, salves, all kinds of things. Herbal medicine is just a whole world that is way too much to cover in this one video. So maybe next time I'll cover teas or salves or something like that. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. If you like our content here on our channel, please subscribe. Please share us in your social media outlets to help get the word out about what we're doing here. We appreciate you guys, each and every one of you. And I will see you guys on the next video. God bless.